the bank really has two options there. They can either pay out the vendor to stop the action, or they end up joining the action with the vendor. Another important point to note here is vendor finance. So we do see a lot of business acquisition where the vendor is quite happy to provide some finance to the buyer on that business.
Mm-hmm.
It is accepted by the banks, but it is probably lower on their appetite scale than having genuine cash or property equity into the transaction.
Yeah.
But as long as the bank can understand the vendor finance agreement, have that provided to them, potentially have their lawyers read through it to understand how it may impact on the bank debt. Some vendors will want security over the business. So if the vendor's got security over the business, the bank's going to want to know that the bank can have a preferential security position over that business. The vendor finance agreement may include terms around how any enforcement action from the vendor could be triggered. And I have seen some vendor finance agreements whereby one missed payment under that vendor finance arrangement can trigger enforcement action by the vendor. Now, if they have a general security agreement over your business and they enforce against the business, the bank really has two options there. They can either pay out the vendor to stop the action, or they end up joining the action with the vendor. And that's where the bank then obviously wants to be very comfortable around that agreement before they get into that position, because it can leave the bank with really limited options in terms of what they do, which is why it's important for the bank to understand what that vendor finance arrangement is. So it is certainly something that is able to be done. As long as all the parties can understand how it works and be comfortable with it, then it is a valid option to having some additional support or finance around the business. And I suppose back to the capacity issue, if you've got a repayment to the vendor and a repayment to the bank, the bank's going to want to understand that the business can still make or afford all of those repayments, not just the payments to the bank. So that comes back to the capacity side of things in that earlier slide.